you to the Maiden edition of Virtual Start Right, being organized by Azone Network. Before we begin the program, I would like to briefly let you know that Azone Network is a non-profit organization that is dedicated to mentoring young people and also developing the potentials of young people. It is in light of this that we've organized this Start Right. This is the first time we've ever done this online, and previously we've been doing this in many senior high schools, especially those of you in Ashanti region and then in the central region as well. But today we are coming to you live in your homes, and we expect that this program become a success and an impactful one to you. My name is Dr. Hayford Adabo, and I'm going to be your moderator. It is said that if you are going to a place and you do not know there, any road at all can take you there. That is why it is important to get guidance, get direction in whatever place that you are going, so that you will be able to make the right academic and then career choices in life. And so this evening, the 1 hour 30 minutes that we are going to be spending with you right in your homes is going to focus on the theme, what's next after senior high school. But before that, I want to say a big congratulations to you for successfully writing your WASI. We know that and we heard a lot of things that came up during your exams, but by the grace of God, you have been through. And so the most important thing that we should be thinking about now is what's next after senior high school. After your exams, what do you plan to do? And that is why we have set up a very fantastic panel to help us deliberate on this issue. And so by the time you are done, you already know that you have your plans already. And so you may shape that plan, or better still, get a new plan at all and make sure you are doing the right thing. At the end of the day, it is your success that we are looking out for. I will be introducing my panel, and as they say, ladies first. But fortunately, we have a lady, and so instead of ladies first, we have lady first. The lady amongst us happens to be a charming one who is always smiling and also an ambitious person. She is a CEO, but prefers to be called a co-founder. And so this evening, I will try to still maintain what she prefers as a co-founder instead of a CEO, and welcome Miss Abigail Osua Jamfi. I hope you are with me virtually, and so you are still welcoming her. She's a fantastic woman, and we are going to learn a lot from her this evening. The next on my list is someone who is very enthusiastic about youth work. In fact, he will do anything at all to help young people. And so this evening, we happen to have in our midst one of the youngest lecturers you ever find on KNUST campus. And probably it's because he's young, that's why he's much enthused about youth. But I tell you, whatever it takes for him to work for the youth, this man will definitely give his all. He's actually a lecturer at the KNUST and also happens to be one of the patrons of Azone Network at KNUST. And so you are at your home. I will still need you to join me and virtually welcome Dr. Kojo Owusu Akufu. The next on my list is a minister of the gospel. It is important that in all the things we do, we consider God. And so we have a minister of the gospel with us, and he is the pastor at the Community Faith Baptist Church at Etimentin here in Kumasi. And this evening, he will also be helping us on the same theme, what's next after senior high school. And so I'm glad to also introduce to you Reverend Frank Ochre Dako. My able panelists, you are all welcome. Thank you. Yes. To begin with what's the task we have this evening, I would want to start with you, Dr. Kufu, on the same theme that we are talking about this evening, what's next after senior high school. I would want to let you, as part of your introductory remarks, I would want you to briefly tell our senior high school graduates who are listening and who are watching us live now about their options after senior high school. What can they do now that they are done with senior high school? Doug.
Thank you. So after senior high school, the world is before you, and there are so many things that you could do. But depending on where your interests are and what you did during secondary school, that may determine where you want to do. For instance, you could continue studying by entering the university or a tertiary institution, training college or college of education, and then pursue in that any course in that field of study that you learned in secondary school. You could also do some technical work by learning a trade or learning a skill in a technical institute, and thereby gain some skills there that would help you in your life. These are just a few options, and you could also choose to move along the ladder by entering into either pastoral ministry or any other ministry of your choice. But after senior high school offers you the opportunity to explore different things as you also develop yourself over time.
Thank you, Doc. And I want to remind you once again that if you just joined us, this is what's next after senior high school. Codab Start Right, and this is being organized by A-Zone Network. If you are currently online with us, just click on the share button right under this live feed and share with your colleagues so that they can also benefit from this session and then this wonderful discussion that we are about. We've just begun. Just like Doc mentioned, now that you are done with senior high school, Doc is telling us that we can further our studies and move on to tertiary education. If that is also not what we want to do, Doc advises us to either enter technical or a vocational training institution, and he also mentioned that you can as well enter into ministerial work. That is so wonderful, and we appreciate you so much, Doc, for that wonderful insight. I believe if you are thinking you have only one option, now Doc has opened things up, and now you know that there are many options, and not probably just what you are thinking. And so if it is schooling that you want to school, you go further and then know which forms of school that you want to pursue. And then if it is vocational or technical, you also go further and then explore all those options that Doc mentioned in his earlier remarks. I will be moving on straight to Reverend. Doc mentioned that the students that are done with senior high school can either continue with school, technical or vocational, or even be like you as a minister of the gospel. But I believe that all these things get down to one thing we call purpose in life. And so before one can determine whether to continue schooling or venture into vocational or technical school, I believe the first thing the person should be able to do is to identify his or her purpose. These are our young people who are done with senior high school. I would want to ask you to help our young people how they can identify their purpose here on earth.
From this beginning, we want to talk about purpose. We cannot talk about purpose when we're talking about a creator or an inventor. Because when we talk about purpose, purpose simply means the reason for existence or the intent of something. So for them to really discover who they really are, then there is a need for them to go back to their creator in order to find out what really he wants them to do. So there is a need for them to go back to the source, and everything starts with God. Just as the theme that we are considering is starting right. You cannot start right without God because everything begins and ends with Him. So, frankly speaking, when God creates someone, He embeds or he puts certain things in the person that we can ascribe by saying maybe a natural ability, which is a talent that someone can really maybe base on in order to help the person really, find out his way or maneuver his way in life. So we cannot talk about purpose, which is the reason for existence or an intent of something, without not going back to the inventor or going back to the creator. So I think they will really be able to discover what they want to do really by not leaving the God factor out of what they do.
Thank you, Reverend, for that wonderful submission. If you heard Reverend right, he says everything begins with God and ends with God. And so the God factor is very important for you to determine your purpose here on earth. But I'll still go back to Doc. If you go to God, what do you actually do with God? Do we ask Him? Do you read His manual? How are we going back to God? I mean, what are the specific things we are going to do with God for us to know our purpose here on earth?
Oh, okay. I heard you referring to God.
Oh,
so that's the reason why. All right. Frankly speaking, you cannot talk about discovering your purpose without talking about a passion or talking about interest, because whatever you do, you must be passionate about. So if you are not passionate about, then along the way you wouldn't be able to accomplish whatever God has embedded in your heart or what you believe you must suppose to be. For example, Bishop T.D. Jakes says something. He says, passion without, it says, passion without, he says something that I cannot quote it verbatim, but what I can say is that the fact that you are passionate, you have talent is not enough. But passion without, talent wouldn't get you anywhere. So we should have, passion or a drive that will be able to help us for us to really get to the place where God wants us to be. So your area of interest, and we cannot talk about passion without not talking about, for example, something that comes natural to you. Because in life we build on our strength. What you may be, good at so many things, but what really comes easily to you is something that you must focus on. So the fact that somebody is doing it does not necessarily mean you have to also do it. You have to assess yourself to know this is where my strength lies. Then you can build on that, because in life we build on our strength. So the fact that a friend or a father or mother did maybe medicine does not necessarily mean you must go into the medical professional. Maybe yours may be something totally different, maybe law or something different, or maybe even into the pastorate, as Doc referred earlier to. So you build on your strength, what comes easily to you and what you are easily gravitated towards. Then that will be able to help you for you to maneuver your way through life. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend, for that wonderful delivery and that wonderful explanation. If you heard him, as he rightly said, that you need to be able to identify the areas that you are passionate and then the areas that you have interest in. The fact that your colleague is doing it, the fact that your mother or your daddy studied something or did something does not mean that you should also go ahead and do the same thing. And I'll be coming back to him once again on the same thing to add to how we can identify that passion that Doc mentioned. You always say it, do what you love, do what you are interested in. How do we identify it? After I've moved to Our Lady, I'll come back to Doc for Reverend, for you to help us with how we can identify what we are interested in or what we are passionate about. If you just joined us, let me once again remind you that this is What's Next After Senior High School, brought to you by A-Zone Network, and we are with you right in your home. Make sure that if you have any question, get into the comment section and then ask. You will be able to read your question and then go to the panelists for clarification, answers, and solutions. Don't also forget to share the video, the live feed with your mates and your colleagues so that they can also benefit from this insight that our panelists are giving us. I'll be moving on to our wonderful CEO who prefers not to be called a CEO, but for me, she is an award-winning CEO, and for that matter, she needs that title. But fortunately, I'll stay to what you want. And I forgot to mention that she is the co-founder of Oga Golden Solutions, and currently she is also pursuing a public health interest. Doc, in her earlier submission, mentioned that one can go to further his or her education after senior high school, ministerial work, also talked about vocational or technical training. If you look at vocational or technical training, realize that one goes there to acquire skills or what we term a trade. And so it's as if that is also an option, or let me say it is also an option for these our young ones. But I want you to let us understand how important it is for one to learn a trade. I'm asking this because often when we are in school, we think along only one path. All we are thinking is furthering to tertiary. And so how is it important for one to learn a trade in this our 21st century?
Thank you very much. So it is very important for us to learn a trade, especially after senior high school. You know, after senior high school, we all have that qualification as a senior high school graduate. And that's the general qualification, but competence is elective in that you might have a skill that another person might not have. So while waiting for your results, you could learn a trade or a skill while still at home. So in this technological world, you can take advantage and take an online course. So just as Reverend was talking about passion or interest, you know yourself very well. If you have difficulties too, you could talk to other people who are experts in an area you would want to pursue. So for example, if you want to learn how to sew, you could talk to someone who is already a fashion designer or who has already started a career in that, and you could join as an apprentice and learn gradually. You could give yourself some timeline, let's say 3 months, 6 months. Especially if you are not going to school immediately after your results, you can take 1 year to learn a lot. And you could really improve yourself before you get to the tertiary level. And the good thing is that in these are time, certificate alone is not enough. You could have a degree, but if you don't have an extra skill that will make you competitive in the job market, you have an issue. So it is good to go to school immediately after your WASSCE results. It's also equally good if you don't have the opportunity to enter immediately due to financial constraints or challenges from home. While you are still waiting for your results, as I said, you could take a course online, you could learn graphic designing. You know yourself, you know from senior high school, as Doc was saying, we learned different courses. Some learned general science, visual arts, varying courses. So sit down. You could actually think on paper. I believe in thinking on paper because a lot of time we actually have a lot to do, but if you don't think on paper, if you don't write them down, you may forget. So you can take a book or a diary and pin down some things you wish you could do, and you shortlist, let's say 2 or 3. Then you could identify a mentor or someone who is an expert in that area, then you can take it from there. So it's a progressive thing. You can't be a master just in 1 day. It might take you a month, but there's this principle that if you do things for, let's say, at least 21 days, you become an expert. And once it becomes a habit, it's easier for you to wake up in the morning, you just continue that skill or trade you would want to learn. Thank you.
Thank you for another wonderful submission from Abigail. I told you earlier that you are going to love her submissions. One key thing she said, and I want to emphasize that, is that if you are not going to school straight away from senior high school, one thing she recommends is that you actually apply for yourself a trade. And in this, our current world, that is going to make a lot of difference in your life. She said a lot of things, and I believe we got her, and so we are going to make that an option. For me, I even see it as an option that is exclusive of those who will be going to school. Even those who are going to school can still pursue a trade and add it in addition to whatever they are learning in school, so that they don't find themselves wanting when they graduate. Thank you, Ms. Abigail, for that wonderful insight you shared with us. Now, I'll be going back to Dr. Akufu once again. And I'm still on the theme, what's next after senior high school, and on your earlier remarks about the options you gave us. But this time I want to narrow it down to schooling. If one wants to further with school, realize that a person can go to the university, can go to a technical university, can go to a training college. I would want to find out from you, how do I settle on one of these options? What do I consider before I decide to either go to the university or decide to go to a training college or perhaps a technical or a vocational institution?
Thank you very much. So the options available are open to everyone. I think this is very important that I make that. And over time, what happens is that what you did during the secondary school, your secondary school results, some way somehow tends to influence where you'd eventually end up. So, for instance, you did general science. You had a very good score in general science, and you had a very good aggregate, and then you want to pursue a program in the university. Depending on where your passions are, assuming that you've been able to settle in on what you really want to do. So if you want to, for instance, become a nurse, there are different levels of becoming a nurse. They have the degree in nursing. There are also those who go through, who become nurses through the nursing training colleges. And then there are also who go to midwifery training schools. So depending on how your qualifications are in terms of the results from the WASI, that would somehow determine whether you'd be able to get entry into the university or to get entry into the the nursing training school, or be able to even go into midwifery. But overall, one of the key things that also sometimes determine these things is also cost. Sometimes because of possibly some support that you may get from the nursing training college, it becomes an option for some people because you don't get that kind of support from family. The same way, if you are going into, let's say, the university, and maybe the financial things that you may require in order to enter the university may not be forthcoming because of the funding. But just like going to Accra or Kumasi or any other destination, there is not only one way to enter to go to that destination. You could choose to go through Tamale before you go to Accra. You could choose to go to Navrongo or some other destination before you end up in Accra. The ultimate goal or the ultimate aim is, where are you going? Where is the destination? And over time, what you find is that some also discover themselves and discover what they really want to do by starting with something. And I want to start by saying that your SS or your WASI results is going to be a key thing. But when you see your WASI results and you feel you need to improve it a little bit, take the option of doing the remedial classes. But as you take the option of doing the remedial classes, also take the opportunity to learn a trade or learn a skill or to be involved in some volunteering activity, which may develop your skills over time. And beyond that, if you get the opportunity, for instance, to enter into the university, you also need to pursue that with all your might. And whatever you find your hands doing, no matter where you eventually end up, you need to do it with all your might. And that will also help you, because there are many people who did not even start with their passion, but over time, because they put in their best and with the help of God, they were able to achieve so much in the future.
Thank you, Doc, for another delivery there. I think most of our Facebook participants are saying they are finding it difficult to hear us, and so I believe we should be able to speak up a bit so that they will find it easy to hear us. On Facebook, Ebenezer Usu says a solid panel. Thank you for that. Desmond Selassie says thank you very much with 3 hearts. I don't know what that means, but I believe that shows love. And then we have Gabriel saying that he can't hear us too well. And so Gabriel, we are hoping that with time you get to hear us very well as we try to speak up for you. So just to recap what Doc said, that for you to be able to determine which of those institutions to go, the first thing to look at probably is your grade. Sometimes you may wish to go to the university, you may wish to go to a training college, but your results may not be able to take you there. And so sometimes you may have to look for a similar or quite another task or another venture that will be able to accommodate your grade. And in my book, I said that sometimes when you make a choice and you realize that you are struggling, instead of fighting and putting your head here and there, sometimes you can look for another task or another option that is quite easier for you so that you don't stress yourself in this life. And so the first thing Doc wants you to look at is your grade, and that can go a long way of determining where to go. Another thing he also mentioned is cost, and he used the training college as an example that if you look at a training college, after paying your fees, you are fed, you are provided a number of things, and so relatively it might be a little less expensive compared to pursuing university education or another form of training. And so sometimes if you look at your financial background, that can also inform where to really start. But he crowned whatever he said by saying that it's better to give yourself time so that with time you really discover where you actually want to go. Doc, thank you for that insight you gave us. But I'll still stay with you. I know you are tired, but I'll still stay with you. Yes, now we have decided the institution that we want to go, whether university, training college, or whatever it is we are in now. But compared to senior high school where we have fewer courses, if you get to the university, you have so many courses. You get to training college, you have so many courses. And sometimes you get so confused as to which one that we should be choosing. I want to get back to you. Now, when we decide on the form of tertiary education that we want, how do we go about choosing the course we want to study?
Okay, thank you. So when you decide on the form of tertiary education, the next stage is that you have to look at where your interests are. And then we go back to where you started from. So your interest is what is driving the whole process, and also the grades. The grades come in terms of helping you to meet the admission requirements. For every program of study in the university, there are some requirements you need to meet. For instance, you need to get passes in commerce, English, maybe integrated science, and then also with some electives, maybe physics, chemistry, and possibly biology, depending on what course that you really want to study. And this combination would end up giving you an aggregate from your WASI, and then in the admission requirements, it will be stated clearly what the cutoffs were the previous year. That would be a very important indicator. It doesn't mean that will be the same cutoff for the year that you are applying, but it could guide you in knowing whether you'll be able to attain that aggregate when you're applying for that program. Thankfully, the universities in Ghana have given the opportunity for applicants to change the courses that they would want to pursue when they see the grades that they get from the WASI. So that is also a very important thing that I believe all applicants to the university should take note of. The grades are very important because they determine what kind of program you'll be able to apply. Now, after looking at the cutoffs for those programs, and then also looking at your own specific grade, and then your interest, now you have to look at where you would want to be in the future. What kind of program are you looking at doing, and what kind of things you really look at achieving in the future? That would also drive that whole process. So, for instance, if you intend, look at it in terms of a much broader field, a much broader team, so that they can guide you in the whole process and also look at other options that are available. So if you want to enter to become, for instance, let's say an engineer in the future, there are several different types of engineering in the whole different types of engineering that you can pursue, but you may be interested in a specific type of engineering. But you could not only do that specific type of engineering if you do not meet those requirements. So what you do is that you try and look at other options that are available for you. So yes, I love engineering. What else do I like in addition to engineering? Maybe in the secondary school you loved chemistry, or maybe you loved accounting, or you loved some aspect of business. So then you look at, okay, engineering would be something that I would really like to pursue, but if I don't get engineering, possibly I may like to work in the field of maybe medical laboratory technology, because I had an experience in a hospital that made me love that program. So, and then you look at two other options which may also help you in choosing those specific programs. After choosing all those programs, you submit it through the admissions portal, and then a panel that selects students for the university will meet and then make a decision, and then subsequently inform you as to what could be done. So all these it's a process that leads you to choose a program and also decide where you eventually end up. But what is important during this phase, as you try to discover yourself, is to take the opportunity of reading about different career options. And that helps you to have a much broader selection, wide range of courses to select from. Because maybe in your own experience and all that you've been seeing as you were growing up as becoming a medical doctor, engineer, teacher, or maybe a pharmacist. But there are other career options that are available in our universities, and by reading about them and by exploring them, you begin to find little interest in those specific ones, and that can also guide you in your decision.
That is another insight, and for me it's an eye-opener, that if you are worried about what course to read at a university, in a training college, don't just deliver on that. And I would want to remind you what Doc just said, that the first thing to look at is your interest once again. And so from this session that we are having with you, one thing that keeps coming is what you are interested in. Doc also mentioned your grade as another factor that determines the course that you want to be reading. And he mentioned that for every course that you want to read, there's a specific cutoff point by the institution that you want to actually go. And unless you are able to satisfy that cutoff requirement, you will not be able to pursue the course that you want to study. And so it's important to also look at the grade that you get in your WASI. Doc also mentioned along the way that it is better to read wide, so that, especially around careers, so that can also guide you in making a choice of study program in a tertiary institution. And I believe that with these factors that Doc mentioned, you shouldn't be at loss. However, if you are at loss, Doc is still, I believe, is still available and can guide you to really find out the course that you want to be reading in the university, at the training college, or whatever institution that you find yourself in. Doc, thank you so much for that insight. I believe my people are really learning, and we are blessed this evening to have such a wonderful panel at you. We have Enonam on Facebook saying, God bless you all. I'm really learning a lot from this program, even though we just started. And then we have Prosper also saying, as promised. Thank you, Prosper, for that encouragement. And we believe that this is going to help our younger brothers and sisters to really make the right academic and career choices in their life. Desmond Selassie says, please, I heard it is not possible to switch from physician assistantship to medicine at the university, even if you meet the requirements. How true is that? I didn't really get it well, but I believe you come back to this one question and Doc will prepare for that. But moving straight to Reverend Frank Otre Dakum.
Yes, sir.
Where we left off, we talked about passion and interest, and it keeps coming back at us that for us to make the right academic and career decisions, what's one thing to look at is what we are passionate about or what we love. How do we find out that passion or interest?
Honestly speaking, to find out what you're passionate about, you will be able to know exactly if you consider money secondary to the career that you are choosing. Which means you can do something for free without not necessarily thinking about money. Although with whatever you are pursuing it at the end of the day to be able to get something out of it. But something that you can do without not even considering the monetary aspect or the monetary value will definitely help one to know that this is what I'm really passionate about. So if you can do something for free without not being paid and yet you can do it wholeheartedly, then it means it is something that is worth considering. Although at the end of the day, I mean, whatever you do, you definitely gain something. Either you have your salary or your wages or whatever it is. But can you do something without not necessarily considering the monetary aspect of it? And secondly, you can also know that if you are passionate about something, when that thing comes, I mean, it brings fulfillment and satisfaction to you. Which means, I mean, after you are done, or when you get involved with that, it brings satisfaction. Because all these that we are talking about and passion-related issues, I can say that everything that we do, or I define it this way, wherever you find yourself, you are called to the place. So when we talk about calling, definitely what comes to mind is ministerial calling, or mounting the pulpit or going on the platform to preach the word of God. But I believe that every area one find him or herself, that person is called to the place. So if you are, a physician, or you are called to the medical, which means your clients or your patients, you are called to the people. And as a child of God, you should be able to do and represent your Lord over at that place. So to know what you are passionate about, money shouldn't be on top of your list, but something that comes also natural to you that brings satisfaction or fulfillment to you as such. And to know you are passionate about something also, something you spend money on, or something that you gravitate towards easily. You know, nobody pushes you for you to do that, but it becomes easier for you to get involved with that. And it will let you know that really, this is something that I'm passionate about.
I'm sure you are clapping for Reverend right in your homes, because if you are wondering what you are interested in, he gave important clues as to what you need to do to be able to identify that. If you didn't hear Doc well, he says that although the Bible says that the laborer deserves his wages, to be able to identify what you are really passionate about, what is it that you can do even if you are not paid? And he got me thinking, what will I love to do without even being paid? But for me, I'm glad that I found what I can really do without even pay. And so if you are worried about how to find your passion or your interest, what is it that you can do without being paid? Even if you are not going to be paid, will you still do that particular thing? He also mentioned that you should be able to find fulfillment after you've gone to see your patient, after you've developed that chair, after you sit on TV and speak. Will you be fulfilled? Will you find happiness within you? And if you can find that happiness, then Doc is telling you that you have found your passion. God bless you, Doc, for that wonderful insight. Let me quickly go to our lady, our charming Miss Abigail Osua Janfi, and find out from her. Doc talked about we pursuing university or tertiary education as one of the options you can do after senior high school. And so you apply to get into the university or training college. Sometimes if you are planning to read, let's say geography, you apply to KN University to read geography. KN University gives you admission to come and read history. Sometimes it is tough for us to whether decide on accepting or declining those offers, and so we may be challenged as to what to really do. When you apply and you don't get that particular course, do you accept or you decline?
Thank you. That's a great one. Okay, so one thing that I know is that when you are sending in your application for the tertiary, you have the option to choose at least 4. And with the 4, I suppose they are courses that you are ready to pursue any of them in case you don't get the first option or the second or third or fourth. So my concern here is that if you really chose 1 to 4 and you missed 1 and you had 4, you could still go ahead and pursue. Because I haven't seen a case where you are given a course you didn't choose at all. Or maybe
It happens.
it happens.
Yes.
It happens at
It
all.
happens.
Okay. So if it happens like that and you don't really like the course, there's a second chance. You know, you can reapply. You can reapply, and as Doc talked about your grade, if your grade is really good, because it also influences the course you would be given. If your grade is good, you can do a second chance. You can reapply, and then now that you know your results, you can actually look at the requirement for the particular course you would want to apply. If, for example, you had a grade 8 and the course you chose for the first application was 6, you know you are out of the option. So now you can do some rare considerations to choose a course that will suit the grade, and you know that if you get this particular program, you are willing to study. But in a case where you get a course that you are not really interested in pursuing, it can be grave to go ahead because you are going to spend 4 or 3 years in pursuing that degree or diploma. So if you are under pressure to go to school and just go ahead, it can be grave. So sometimes you need to give yourself some time, especially if your grade is good. But if your grade is also not good, you may have to consider rewriting maybe NOVDEC, as Doc said, because not all of us have the same abilities. Some are average students, some are academically, they are excellent. They will get all A's and can get a first chance to enter. But you know yourself, looking at your results, if you have to rewrite, you might have to be patient. It's not a competition. Because some of your colleagues will even enter before you, and in Ghana, the reality is that there are no more jobs, even though you might have the degree, but as I stated earlier, your skill set and other things might open a lot of doors or opportunities for you. So in as much as you all graduated from the senior high school together, it doesn't automatically mean you have to enter tertiary at the same year. So you need to have some patience. You know, life has a lot of opportunities for all of us, and the future holds several possibilities. Some may go the very year they graduated from high school, some may go the second year. So depending on the situation at hand, you may need to pause and take some time to reflect if you have to do a second application or if you would have to write NOVDEC, depending on the course you would want to apply and the requirements on the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Abigail, for that. We will rush quickly to Facebook and pick some few questions and see how we can help Desmond Selassie. Now I get his question now. Desmond wants to find out that is it possible for one to switch from physician assistantship as a program? I know K University does that. to read medicine at the university, even if you meet that requirement. Let me clarify that. Supposing you have 8 A's, but you are not offered medicine and you are given physician assistantship, in the course of your schooling, can you switch from that physician assistantship program to do medicine? Does the university allow that? Look, if you can help us with that.
Currently, to the best of my knowledge, that option is not available for you to switch from one program to another. What is available is that you reapply. And I think the uniqueness is that for medicine, there is another level of screening, that is the admissions interview, which all applicants who are selected for the first phase need to go through that admissions interview. So it's not necessarily about the grades that you may get, but it's about going through the whole process. And also there are also limitations on the numbers that they can also take in programs of study across the university. So not only for physician assistantship or medicine, but across the university there are also limitations and the numbers that they can take in due to staff strength, due to resources, due to infrastructure. So all these go into the selection of candidates, in addition to the criteria that is clearly stated on the university website and also in the application package. So these are, it's not about the transfer, but if you intend to pursue medicine, why apply for physician assistantship in the first place?
Exactly.
If you have the best of grades.
Let me even help. Yes, he said that even if you meet the requirements.
Now,
yes,
so if you have the best of grades, I'll say pursue. Be a go-getter. Pursue. Go for the best. Go for the best. But as you go for the best, understand that you may be the best student in your own secondary school, but you're now competing with the whole of Ghana. There are people coming from all tertiary, secondary schools in Ghana, and they all have unique grades. And for some programs where there is an interview to pass, it is important to also prepare for that interview and demonstrate that you're the best person to be taken up in that program.
Yes, so to the best of Doc's knowledge, that is not possible. What he says is that if you really believe you qualify to read medicine, then kindly wait until you get that. Once you enter the university, there's no direct transfer of or switching between courses like that. It's as if you are focusing on academics, but one thing people are concerned, especially the public, and Reverend, I'm coming back to you, is the morals of these our young brothers and sisters. I don't know if it is the advent of phones and technology that is letting us have that perception that there is this moral dependency among these senior high school students, and I believe they were students and now they are graduates, and so probably they are all parts. Yes. With what we are seeing, what will you advise them? How is their future like if the things we are seeing from their school is actually what it is, or that is actually what the life they are living?
Although it's good that we are using all these phones and these gadgets, but we must be very careful. It's not everything that we see online that will be a beneficiary to us. We should be able to, we must be selective with what we read and what we do as such. But to talk about morality, it's frankly speaking, I'm a Puritan and I believe in purity, as the word of God says, especially when you read first John 3, verse 1 through to verse number 3. It talks about, it says, now that we are children of God, it has not yet been revealed what we shall be. It says, and when he appears, we shall be like him. And verse number 3 says, anyone who has this hope in him purifies himself just as he is pure. So if you're a child of God, there is a need for you to live a life of purity. I believe that the hallmark of a true believer is purity. You cannot necessarily claim you're a child of God or not necessarily live right. So if you are a graduate, and now that you've come out of school, SS graduate, I will really advise you and I will beg of you that you must live right. And the living right is for you to be able to go back to your source, that is God, and to give your life fully and wholeheartedly unto Him. Either than that, if care is not taken, by the time that your results may be in, you might have find yourself doing certain things which may not augur well for you. So it is a time that they must invest in their spirituality. Don't just, now that it's like, oh, now I don't have many subjects to be considering or to be learning. So because of that, anything, social media, you are doing all sorts of things which really wouldn't help. So I believe that they should really, because when you read 1 Corinthians, I think 10 verse number 31, it says, therefore, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all to the glory of God. So I believe that everything that we do must glorify our Maker, because He is our Creator. So I will beg of them, anyone who is watching or who may come in contact with this program eventually should really consider living right with God, which means you shouldn't just live anyhow, because whatever you sow, you reap. And if you sow bad seeds today, it will definitely be waiting for you to harvest in the future, which you may not harvest something good, but something bad as well.
A word to the wise. This one is direct to all of you. Probably you are thinking about schooling, you are thinking about vocational or technical training. If you are not careful, Reverend says that when you may even find yourself, by the time your results is in, you may find yourself wanting. And so, even as we are dreaming big and then aiming for bigger and more fulfilling things in life, we should be able to live a pure life. He is a believer of purity. On the comment section now, I can't see again, but one of the questions I remember on Facebook is, if you are considering studying engineering and you don't really know how to draw, should you consider it and still go ahead with it? Look, I think you should help us here.
Yeah, I think this all goes to emphasize the need for people to know themselves and to know what they can really do. If you don't know how to draw, you could learn how to draw. I think that option is there. The opportunity, and no engineer or no doctor was a doctor when he or she completed secondary school. They had to go through a series of teaching, training, practical skills development before they became a doctor or engineer. So if you don't know how to draw, you could also learn how to draw. But if you see that this is something I'm not really passionate about, when it comes to drawing, I take the pencil or the pen and my output is really not the best, and you don't also want to consider the option of learning it, then I believe that you really have to consider choosing another program, because there are programs which do not require that specific skill.
Yes, and sorry, to add to that, I have not read engineering, but for the 6 years I spent on K University campus, first year university engineering students were always with drawing boards, and I believe drawing boards are used to draw. So I'm not too sure of what they use the drawing board for, but I always saw them with drawing boards, especially during examinations and in their first year. So it may not be necessarily all the engineering courses, but to some extent there is a bit of drawing for you as an engineering student in your first year. And so everything is learned. Probably if that is what you want to do, you can begin learning how to draw and still pursue your engineering dream. We will continue with our discussion on the theme, what next after senior high school? And this is that start right, because we want you to get things right from where you are now. Sometimes you need to avoid a lot of mistakes. In my upcoming book, there is something I shared, and I want to say it here, that in all the examinations that I took in KNUST, there is one that was marked with a score called +1 - 1. What that means is that the questions are MCQs, and you are supposed to choose the best answer or the best option. However, you are not free to be guessing throughout the questions. What it is that if you answer one question right, you score 1 point. If you answer one question wrong, you get a score of -1. So if you are getting 5 right and 5 wrong, you have a net score of 0. And that is what life is. If you don't start right and start making mistakes in life, even as you are fighting in one field, the mistakes you are making in the other end will come back to nullify everything that you've done. And at the end of the day, you get back to where you are and you remain standstill. That is why it is important to take all these discussions we are having this evening very serious, so that you minimize the mistakes in your pursuit of your dreams and then your aspirations in life. I'll get back to Miss Abigail once again. Sometimes, if we sit in the classroom and then we have WASI, we have a certificate, we find it difficult to accept something like apprenticeship because we see it as it's something for the illiterate, in quotes, sorry to use that word, for people who are not schooled. That is how we think. It is so that apprenticeship or learning a trade is something for the unschooled or people who have not sat in the classroom.
Okay. Thank you. I would say that's a wrong mentality. Because learning a trade, anyone can actually do it. Once you identify a particular trade you want to learn, it doesn't matter the degree you have. Because I know of medical doctors who have learned some skills or trade even outside their background. So that's a wrong notion.
Yeah, and I know of a photographer who is a medical doctor, and he loves photography so well. Yes, and so there's nothing wrong if you are in school and you are going to learn apprenticeship to become a carpenter, a beautician, or whatever it is. At the end of the day, Doc said you must find fulfillment, and I think that is the key thing to look out for. And so we should disabuse our minds from that notion that the fact that you have been in the classroom, it doesn't mean that you must continue in the classroom. Although it is ideal, if you think you don't have the abilities for that, consider learning a trade or apprenticeship. Doc, I'll come back to you once again. We are on you this evening because I think most of the kids would want to go to school. And I believe if you are to find out from about 10 senior high school graduates, they would all want to do further studies. But I'm coming back to you with this question. When you were young, we heard of unemployment among university graduates, that when you finish school, you don't get work to do. Now it's as if we are not only hearing, but we are seeing. I mean, right in our homes, you have a senior brother or a senior sister who has completed university with a first class and is idle in the house, not doing any work or can't find him or herself a job. Some of these young students who would want to go to school are kind of discouraged. They are afraid to go that line, and they are going about, oh, don't go to university. When you finish, you will not get work to do. And so, even if they have the ability, they are afraid to pursue university education. What is your advice for these students? Is their judgment or their decision to probably not pursue university education based on the fact that they may be unemployed a good decision, or you have another advice for these our young SHS graduates?
Thank you very much. So, being in the university develops you holistically. And I think that is something that we have to view the whole of education. Being in secondary school develops you not only to excel in that specific program of choice, but it also offers you the opportunity to interact with others and also gain experience in other social activities, which may end up developing your leadership skills and other qualities over time. The university, as it offers this opportunity, also offers you the opportunity to think through and also take advantage of the resources that are available across the board, and also take initiatives in order to achieve those goals. So yes, graduate unemployment is a reality, but I believe that being in a university or being in education or any kind of training program will offer you the opportunity to develop yourself and also help you to be able to achieve your goals over time.
Yeah, I just want to do a follow-up to what Doc is saying. I know people who did a break, but yet they are now working in a bank.
Yes.
Because university, prepares you holistically for the job market. So I spoke about passion. If you're passionate about something, when the person was doing his service, they realized that no, this person can really be trained for the job itself. So the fact that maybe I'm not necessarily contradicting what Doc is saying, but you might have read certain subject, but yet or career, but yet you may find yourself in a different field altogether because you were well prepared for the job market and you become a bit suitable for that market. So if you were given maybe a course or subject which you weren't necessarily in tune with, just prepare yourself, build yourself up. For example, like some of us being a pastor, knowing that I may have people who are into the law field, into medicine, into accountancy and other things. I have a philosophy that I go with. I must be a student for life, learning always and also of life, which means I try as much as possible to be able to now, so that I can speak to everyone who sits under my feet, but I'm not necessarily into medicine. For example, like Bishop Daniel Mills of Lighthouse is a medical doctor, but yet he is now in ministry. So you can be trained in a certain area and eventually find yourself in another area, whereby that was why I spoke about fulfillment and satisfaction. Although him being in the medical field or being trained so many years, he eventually entered into ministry, and now he's raising people and also planting churches and doing. So we must really know that. But when you read his books, you will even find out some of his illustrations and examples are from his field, which helps him. So you can be trained in a certain area and eventually find yourself in another area. But yours is to be able to serve people and serve them well. And I think that is what we must be giving ourselves to.
Thank you, Reverend, on that. We have another question on Facebook, and the person wants to find out if you have passion in becoming a gynecologist in future, but you offered general arts in senior high school. How can you still become the gynecologist that you want to become? And Doc, will you help us here?
Yeah, so thank you. So if you studied, unfortunately our educational system does not offer the opportunity to come into different professions if you do certain courses. If you want to become a gynecologist, the first step is to go into medical school and become a doctor. So you become a doctor and then you specialize in gynecology. So, and the requirements for entering into medicine in our country is that you need to do general science and some specific courses like biology, and that does not give you that option when you run in general arts. I know of other countries which can offer you the opportunity to do whatever course regardless of where you're coming from. But unfortunately, if that person is in Ghana, that we don't have that option. The only option may be to go back, study science again in the secondary school, and then get the best of grades, because entering medical school is highly competitive, and then moving on from there.
Just wondering how the person developed interest in gynecology when he or she is studying general arts. But that is fine. Per the universities or the institution's admission requirements, you will not be able to satisfy the chemistry, biology, physics, or e-maths requirements that is needed of you to pursue medicine. Besides, gynecology is a specialization in medicine, and so maybe we take those advice to go back to senior high school and pursue science, and then have a fulfilling life. Let me remind you once again that this is Start Right, What's Next After Senior High School by A-Zone Network. And right in the live feed, you can send in your questions for our able panelists to help provide solutions and answers for you so that you don't find yourself wanting in the near future. They've really spoken at length, and I believe that if you are home, you should be on the right path by now, and so you shouldn't be in doubt. But if you are in doubt, I think it's Reverend or Abigail made mention of a mentor, and I think I want us to stick to mentorship a bit and see how mentorship helps in the making of these career and academic decisions, and generally the success of our life. So I'll start with you, Reverend. Mentorship. Do you really see it in Ghana?
Not that.
It's not something that we really see.
Yes.
But in your view, how helpful is mentorship, especially to these our young SHS graduates?
I think it's very important because with the mistakes that the mentor might have made, he would be able to help the mentee escape. For example, if you messed up as a mentor along the way, you shouldn't, allow your mentee to go through, or somebody that's it's a youngster who is coming up to go through. So I think a lot of us should be able to now bring in the younger ones so that we can pour into them to help them become even better than us. In the near future. So and sometimes some of also our mentees, they are not necessarily humble. Sorry to say.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say next, and I think I will let Dr. Akufu take a bite on that. Yeah, I think the problem may not necessarily be the unavailability of people to bring up the younger ones, but sometimes I think the behavior of these young people may also play a very big role in probably mentorship not working in the country. And so, what's your take on that? What does the behavior of the mentees or the younger ones contribute to this issue we are talking about mentorship?
Yeah, I'll say that we may say that there's not a structured mentorship program in place, but we have possibly informal ways of mentoring people, either through the church or at home or through the community. So some of these unstructured programs may be that where you stay, there may be someone who is maybe an engineer in that place, or a teacher who stays with you in that vicinity, and therefore through your interactions with that teacher, seeing the work that the teacher does, that tends to help you to see how that career is. And I think that for you to also learn from that person, that's where the behavior aspects come in. You need to humble yourself and learn from that person, understanding that that person has gone through a certain series of challenges or hardships or great experiences, which you can also learn from and help develop yourself in the future. But without taking the opportunity to humble yourself and also learning from that person, and also taking heed to advice. I think also there are also people who have a lot of people available to support them and to mentor them. But when the advice is given, they do not take advantage of that advice, and they feel that I have to go through life experiencing every bit of it. Sometimes you may experience every bit of it, but at the end of the whole process, you may end up missing one or two opportunities and may not have the opportunity to go back. Yes, it is important to experience the challenges, it's important to experience the difficulties, and life will offer you that a whole range of these. But it's also important to stand on the shoulders of others and build on it to be the best in the future.
Thank you, Doc. stand on the shoulders of others and build on it. Dr. Kwejo Osu Akufu, he is a lecturer, perhaps one of the youngest here in KNUST. I'll be going back to Ms. Abigail Osua Jamfi. As a young person, I believe you have mentors, right? Yes. I would want you to share with us an experience you had from a mentor so that these our young graduates, SHS graduates who are listening to us, will take this mentorship thing you are talking about serious. Any experience to share with us?
Okay, thank you. So I've had a mentor. We've been in touch for at least 10 years. And I remember after senior high school, he insisted I start writing emails to him. And initially it wasn't easy, but I had to learn to do it. And that's one thing a lot of our senior high school students lack. You know, most of them are used to short writing because they usually use informal conversation on WhatsApp. So if you ask them to write emails, some of them begin to shake. Some of them begin not have emails. If they have emails, they keep forgetting their password because they think it might not be relevant.
They don't really use it.
Yes. Yes. I worked at a cafe for some period, and there were people coming in almost every day. They have to create emails just because they don't use they don't use their email actively, or they've forgotten the password. But I mean, we have to tell them there's always a way out. You have to find a strategy, because when you're creating an email, they ask you a question in case you forget your password, maybe you can use your contact. So making it very practical, as graduates from senior high school, one key thing we can learn to do, you can find a mentor who is good in IT, who can teach you to do some of these things. You can also go online straight. Google is open. You can learn a lot of things on your own. You can even go to YouTube, how to create an email. It's not difficult. You just need your name, your personal details. So you just create that email. So we were using that as a mode of communication. Initially, I felt it was very formal. It was quite difficult because, I mean, after high school, you want to have a lot of fun.
I can feel that.
Yes. You want to do WhatsApp and Facebook, things like that. But I can say it's also groomed me to be a better person, because if you want me to be very formal, I can be formal. If you want me to be friendly, yes, and that is a very great part of every human being. So you need to learn to do some of these things outside being a fun person, having fun, because when you enter into the university or any other tertiary institution, you are going to learn to do formal presentation. And in that, you are not going to talk in pidgin or your local language. So you have to learn to do some of these things. So while you are still at home waiting for your results, you can be in touch with your elder sisters or brothers, or even a friend in your community, as Doc mentioned. So it could be your church, if you're Muslim, in a mosque, whatever religion you are in, you could find a mentor in there. You could also find a mentor even in your family. So you talk to the right people who can assist you. If you talk to the right person and they are not even in the capacity to help you, they can also give you a recommendation. And that is the essence of a network. So you need to get the right association. Right after high school, there are some friendship you really have to dissociate. It's not always fun. It's good to have all the excitement, yes, it's good, but you have to accept the reality that life has begun. Some people say life begins at 40. I mean,
it means I'm not having life yet, so I'm still waiting.
I know that is.
Maybe Reverend has a life.
Yeah, I know that is just for fun, but I mean, life really begins after senior high school, because after senior high school, a lot of us might be living the teens into the 20s, and I mean, that is where you get to a point that you might not be always happy or comfortable to ask things for your parents, so you have to find means. So, for example, you can even learn how to sell. You can identify a problem, let's say within your area. You can start selling this bottle of water. You could generate some income. So you need to first of all know the interest that you are looking at, and look for the right mentors. That is very key, because if you are looking for a skill, let's say an IT skill, you don't go to someone who is not a match. And of course, everyone has their own biases. I am not into medicine. I did my undergraduate in chemistry. So if you come to me, I might give you an advice which is more biased towards science. Yes. So if you go to someone who did an arts course, they will also give you an advice that is biased towards that area. So you need to really know what exactly you want, and you get the right mentors to coach you to be the better person.
That is very wonderful. And I will let Reverend take a bite on the right associations and those right friendships. But I want to say that your mentor really helped you in that line of emails. From my experience, even graduates, university graduates, not SHS graduates, and then university students find it difficult to write simple mails. And so it is a great thing that your mentor really taught you. And that goes to emphasize how mentorship is key in one's development and then in one's self-development. And so if you do not have a mentor yet, Azone is going to give you an opportunity to connect to the right people to direct you. And so at the end of this session, I'm going to show you how you can get a mentor from Azone Network, and we are ready to connect and then inspire the dreams that you have. But quickly to Reverend, Abigail made mention of right associations, and I think that is something that needs to be looked at, because this moral thing we earlier talked about, I think sometimes it comes from these how do I call it, associations of friends that we make. Yes. How do we get those red flags about this is a bad friend, this is not a good friend? How do you do it? How do you get that?
Frankly speaking, I mean, who you associate with will definitely determine where you get to in life. So we must we must be careful the people that we associate ourselves with. It's important. I think in choosing friends, people who go in the direction where you are going, not exactly. Maybe if you are pursuing a career, they may be having another interest in another field, but yet they are visionary people, or they are people who have foresight, or they want to get to somewhere else in life. So if you are a visionary person and you want to get to a place in life, you don't necessarily associate yourself with people who do not, speak about or talk about things which are geared towards where you want to go. For example, why choose a friend that when you sit and you talk about things which are not going to help you in the near future, or that they talk about maybe let's go and smoke, drink, do sorts of things which may not augur well or help you in future. So we must be very careful the kind of people we call friends. Before you call somebody a friend, you should know the person's interest, or the person, in terms of his upbringing also, and where he's heading towards in life. Other than that, the people that you associate with could really drag you down or wouldn't help you get to the place of promise or where you intend to get to in life.
Exactly, Reverend, and that is so very clear for us to know. People who are not going in our direction, and so we should be able to see that red flag, that as you want to go and study, this friend says let's go and jam. You should be able to know that you are not going in the same direction, and should be very careful about such a friend. Our time is fast spent, and before I take the final words of our panelists, let me apologize greatly that we promised to talk about scholarship opportunities, but unfortunately we couldn't talk about that. And we are hoping that we find another medium to get that information to you wherever you are. But taking your final remarks, I will want to start from Ms. Abigail Owusu Jansi. These are young SHS graduates wants to hear what we have for them lastly, so that they can make the right academic and career choices.
Thank you. So I have this quote that I say, stay focused on your journey, stop comparing yourself to another. Your journey is different from theirs. You know, most of our younger brothers and sisters who just completed senior high schools have a lot of worries. And in life, there are a lot of uncertainties, yes. But you need to really stay focused in whatever you want to pursue. As I said in my previous presentation, you know, right now you are all graduates, you've completed senior high school, but it doesn't mean you all enter tertiary the same year. So whatever be the case, if for a genuine reason like financial constraint or family support or whatever, you are not able to enter immediately, do not be depressed, do not be so much worried. If you are a believer of God, you have to also understand the timings of God. You know, God has different opportunities and different timings for all of us as human beings. And you are still young. You have a lot of opportunities ahead of you. So don't be too worried if the results is out and your colleagues have the opportunity to enter the same year and you're at home wailing, weeping, crying, warning your parents. Just take it easy. You could take that as an opportunity to even learn a skill before you enter. Because I have this colleague who started decoration after senior high school, and it's amazing that now it's a full business for him. He's made so much money, and he's young, but he's been able to marry. So that is it. So don't be too worried, overthinking, because sometimes because of social media, people post things online, and because you are young, you see it and you're excited and you want to be in that position. But don't worry, take it easy. As I said, life is not a competition. You'll be fine. So get the right association. If there's a problem, you need to talk to the right people. Don't be depressed. Depression can kill you fast. So take it easy. You'll be fine. When the results are in, whatever be the case, take it in good faith. If there's a need for you to rewrite because of a program you want to pursue, take it easy. Spend time and probably rewrite the exam or reapply. So that's the advice I have for you. Life is not a competition. Thank you.
Life is not a competition. Miss Abigail Owusua Chamfi, she is the co-founder of Oga Golden Solutions, and I affectionately call her my Oga. God bless you so much, my Oga. As we continue with our final remarks, and I'll be moving straight to Reverend to take Reverend's final remarks for us this evening.
What I would say is, you cannot start right without God. So we shouldn't forget the element of God. So graduates, SS graduates should take notice of that. When you read Genesis chapter 1, verse number 1, in the beginning, God created heavens and the earth. Before, in other words, everything that God preceded his creation. So we must put God first before our careers, before everything that comes out of our lives, which must be a major key. I just want to end with a scripture. I want to read Hebrews chapter 12, verse number 1 and 2. Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnare us, and let us run. We are talking about running. I mean, when you look at the brochure, what you can see on it is starting somewhat, that is it, starting right. Absolutely. So you see someone just running,
Exactly.
and you cannot run right or start right without. So is it, let us run with endurance the race set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. I just want to elaborate a little bit on this. In any kind of race, for example, what we are wearing now, we cannot be on the track or on the field to run, because this attire or costume is not meant for running. You must be in your spikes and you must be in the right attire in order to run. So that is the kind of picture now the writer of Hebrews is now giving to us. If you can run and run well, you must be in the right state to run and run well. So he said, he says, lay aside every sin and the weight which so easily ensnare us. So the weight becomes, and the sin, the things that we do that do not, please our Maker. So lay aside every weight and the sin for you to be able to run and run well. And he spoke about endurance. You cannot get to your destination without endurance or perseverance. So our graduates or SS graduates should persevere. It's not going to be easy, but they will definitely get there. And he spoke about looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. Their focus must be on Christ and Christ alone. If he made it, we also can make it.
Thank you, and God bless you, Reverend, for those final remarks. He says it's not going to be easy, but with focus, we are going to definitely get there. I believe we are starting right, and we are going to get things right. I'll move straight to Dr. Kwadwo Owusu Akufu, and then take his final remarks and his final advice for our young SHS graduates.
I'll say that first, now you're at home, help mom and dad. Sweep, clean, scrub, do everything to help mom and dad. And leave a mark at home that they will forever remember you. It may be a short phase given the times in which we are in with COVID-19 and the changes to the academic calendar. But take the opportunity to support them at home, because your parents, your guardians will be the people who are going to push you all along. And they'll be your best cheerleaders, no matter where you are. And when you apply for whatever program in either the university or in any institution, and you gain admission into it and you are pursuing whatever degree it is, aim to be the best. Give it all that you have and put in your best, and through that process, even if you do not have all the confidence and all that you need in order to do that program, over time, because you're giving it your best, you'll see that the end result will certainly be great. And never give up. Keep pursuing your dreams, and with God, you'll be able to achieve them.
Never give up. Keep pursuing your dreams, and with God, you will ever win. Dr. Kwadwo Owusu Akufu, his final remarks, and I think this evening they have been a blessing unto us for us to really start right and get things right. This is and has been Start Right on the theme What's Next After Senior High School, brought to you by A-Zone Network, a non-profit organization. At the moment, we are being joined at the studio by a young SHS graduate, Kadesh Akosua Buadua. She is a former student of Ola Senior High School, and she has been with us from the beginning and would like to share with us what she learned from us. Welcome, Kadesh.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Yes, but before I take what you learned, just like I was saying, that about a couple of weeks ago, we saw you guys complaining bitterly on social media about some challenges with the exams. I want to know your side. How was the WASI?
Okay, so the WASI was really challenging. As in, there was this circumstance where different questions from various sources came out, and we were really confused. As in, like, we had difficulty in solving some of the questions, and then it made us really confused as in what to do. Instead of really paying attention to like our books, we all tend to solving those questions, and which actually none came. So it made us
That was unfortunate. That was unfortunate. But I believe that you guys are going to really get the grace that you desire in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Yes. But now you have been with us from the beginning to the end of what's next after senior high school. I want to know, have you made any decision now as to what to do after senior high school?
Okay, so I decided on, okay, so I had no plans actually, but being in the house has been so boring. I decided on helping my mom at a workplace.
Okay. And then do you plan to go to school or learn a trade? Or what do you plan to do now after when your results are in?
I plan on continuing my education.
You've decided on a course already?
Yes.
Would you like to share that with us?
No.
Okay, so Akusua would like to keep the course. She wants to read to herself. Yes, but from today's discussion, we talked at length about going to school, pursuing a trade, a technical education. You mentioned ministerial work. What has been the greatest lesson you've learned this evening?
Okay, so I learned that even if you gain a degree after university and you still don't have a job, you can, instead of remaining idle in the house, you can involve yourself in the trade. Yes.
Exactly, and that was the point that was made, that learning a trade is not only meant for people who are not schooling, but for us who are also schooling. So that when you are done with school and you can't find your job, you can engage yourself in a trade. And so I believe Kadesh is going to find herself a trade to learn in addition to her dream of going to school. This has been What's Next After Senior High School, brought to you by A-Zone Network. And we are very grateful to you for being online with us for almost an hour and 30 good minutes. We are very, very grateful to you. Once again, I apologize that we didn't touch on the scholarships. At the appropriate time, you will find the right medium to channel the right information to you, so that those of you who are financially burdened, you may be relieved of these financial burdens through the scholarships. Once again, my name is Dr. Hayford Adabo, and I've been your moderator. To end, I want to pass the information that A-Zone Network is made up of tertiary students, of course, outstanding ones, and then we also have graduates and professionals among us. Would like to get a mentor, a personal mentor who will guide you in your life, we are welcome to assist you in that regard. Already we have created a group for senior high school students. You may find that link and then be on the platform so that you can receive further directions and instructions from us. We are very grateful to you and we hope to come to you in another time. Thank you for being with us once again. Once again, A-Zone Network, we are all going to respond. We are going to respond connecting and inspiring dreams. A-Zone Network,
Connecting and inspiring dreams.
A-Zone Network,
Connecting and inspiring
of course, we believe we